Hello and welcome. My name is Scott Gross, and today I'm joined by Superintendent of Schools Brian Bulkey. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you, Scott.
And we're going to be talking about the Goffstown School District warrant that you'll be seeing in March 2025. So, Brian, I know we start off with a typical disclaimer.
Yeah, so for the last 12 years, Scott, we've provided a short video providing an overview of the warrant articles that Goffstown voters will see the second Tuesday in March. And this is intended to provide a high-level overview of the presentations that were made at the school district deliberative session. So I do want to be clear with the community, Scott, that this video is not intended to influence or to sway anyone. We're simply trying to provide voters with information if you weren't able to attend or watch the entire deliberative session, to have a shorter recap.
So with that, Brian, we've got elections for both the school and the town, and they're going to take place on Tuesday, March 11th between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. At both Bartlett Elementary and Goffstown High School. Important to bring your ID. I also wanted to share that you see this QR code on your screen. So at both now or at the end, if you want more information, go to the school district website and you'll have all these materials that'll be there. Only 4 articles this year.
4 articles.
Officers.
So the first is election of officers. We won't address that at all. We'll move right into Article 2, which is the district operating budget.
So what you'll see here, folks, is this is what will appear on the warrant. The budget that's proposed is $57,152,484, and the default budget is $56,897,002. Important to note here that the school board voted 9-0 to recommend, and the budget committee voted 14-1 to recommend the operating budget. So we'll go over now just what that looks like. So overall, we're looking at a difference between the default budget and the operating budget of a little over $255,000. Important to also note that the general fund is the fund that is the operating fund. The food service and special revenue funds are not part of taxation that's raised. So Brian, really the big story here was that what are the increases? And we're seeing a 2.44% increase of the default budget, and the proposed budget is 2.9. And I know as a superintendent, your goal was to try to get it under 3%.
Under 3% is what we were targeting this year. So we were fortunate that we were able to do that. And that came with making some hard decisions, but we're comfortable with that.
So really, where to account for these budget increases? As you'll see on your screen, special education, which was mostly out of district placements and contracted services, that accounted for $165,000. IT software, those are your licenses and some hardware costs. It's an increase of about $34,000. We are seeing increased costs in terms of our building maintenance and repairs. So just like you're seeing at your own households, things have gone up quite a bit. So it's about $130,000 of increases in those lines. And then lastly is transportation, both regular and special education. We're seeing increases of $232,000. This is largely attributed to regular education. We came off a 5-year contract with our current provider. And as you know, we've had a hard time finding bus drivers, keeping bus drivers. So this new contract is resulted in that price increase. Important to note, like we talked about at the deliberative session and through various budget presentations, there are no new positions. We do repurpose positions within the school district from time to time. Special education increases, as I mentioned before, the state allows for a 5% bump in terms of out-of-district placements, and that's reflected in there. And this budget includes contracted obligations. So voters approved, Brian, the teacher contract and the support staff contract. Both of those contract increases are included in the default budget. One good bit of news that we did receive this year was that our health insurance costs did not go up as they have in prior years. So depending upon the plan, it ranged from about 1% to 5%. So that's good news that we did see. But Brian, in the context of our budget, I wanted you just to talk a little bit about our cost per pupil, because it is telling.
Sure, and this is what was presented at deliberative session. So the New Hampshire Education Department annually puts out a cost per pupil report where the state essentially does a formula and they come up with a per pupil cost for every school district at both the elementary, middle school, and high school, all three levels for every single school district in the state. And it does this calculation that the state does, Scott, it removes the cost of any bonds that a school district might have. So if the school district is paying for a new school or renovations or something of that nature, that cost is removed. And the other cost that is removed is transportation costs. But as you can see on the screen here, Scott, the New Hampshire average cost per pupil is $21,545. And in Goffstown, our cost per pupil is $17,078. And Scott, we are the lowest cost K-12 system in the state.
So what this slide shows you is that it's broken down into three different components. So at all levels, elementary, middle, and high, you'll note that Goffstown has far, far lower than the average cost per pupil at each of those three levels. What I wanted to talk to you about was also the tax impact. And I think it's fair enough to say that voters and the taxpayers over the last couple of years have seen increases all across the state of New Hampshire. So Goffstown is no different than New Boston or Manchester or anywhere in the state where the funding is largely comes from local property taxes. So unfortunately, in terms of the state's contribution to it, it does put a lot of that pressure, Brian, on the local taxpayer.
It does.
What we're anticipating is a tax rate increase of about 56 cents per thousand. So the average or the median home in Goffstown is a little over $414,000. And we anticipate about a $232 increase in the tax bill should the voters approve the budget. There is a difference of about $38 between if voters approve the budget or if it goes to a default. But that being said, I think there was a recognition from last year and from budget committee deliberations, et cetera, to try to keep things as lean as possible. So with that, we're going to move now on, Brian, to article number 3, which is our capital reserve fund. And I know this one is something that you've been fairly passionate about, I know, since I started working for the district, in terms of saving money and setting money aside for capital projects. And this year we're asking for $300,000, and this comes from surplus. The school board voted 8-1 to recommend it, and the budget committee also recommended it 14-1. And for those of you who don't know much about the capital reserve fund, it is essentially for existing capital assets created over 6 years ago. And every year the voters have approved this expenditure, and it's been a big help for the district in terms of replacing older or aged equipment. We do have what's called a capital improvements plan. There's over 70 projects on that plan, over $1.1 million included in that. And it's a fund that is used for both planned expenses and some unplanned ones. So we recently had to replace a fire panel, and that was unplanned, and we did use the capital reserve fund for that. We also use it for matching grants.
I think it's really important, Scott, to just emphasize that this is a tool for us to focus on some of these significant capital projects. And I would share with people that the Goffstown school facilities are the most valuable asset the taxpayers of Goffstown own. And we have a responsibility to make sure that the buildings are maintained properly, that we're doing all the appropriate preventative maintenance, and that we have an appropriate learning environment for our students and for our faculty.
So on this slide, you'll see this is just a limited history in terms of how the district has funded it. So it's important for our school district to be transparent in terms of where money is spent, and in particular this capital reserve fund. So you'll see that it's ranged from a grant match for lighting at our schools to the theater renovation. We replaced a tractor, AC units, you name it. Most recently, we are replacing our district phone system and a district firewall. So that being said, we are earmarking $300,000, Brian, for a particular project, and that is the Mountain View Middle School Fire Cistern Project. The cistern is basically a very, very large water storage tank and a pump house at Mountain View. So this is the actual pump house itself, and we have to do some repiping. And as you can see, there's rust on some of those pipes, also relining the tank itself. So the school is going to be, pretty much out of commission. We can't have students in there while this is going on.
The plan is if the deposit into the Capital Reserve Fund is approved by the voters, this project would be the focus this summer. And it's important to remember, Scott, this is phase 2 of a 2-phase system. So the cistern project is original to Mountain View Middle School. So this was all built in 1989. And this system essentially runs our fire suppression system and has an elaborate system of how it pumps uphill.
Yeah.
So this is a fire safety issue for us, and that's the project that we're focusing on.
We do have a petition warrant article this year as well. And this is a petition warrant article, as you'll see on your screen. It is asking voters whether or not they wish to publish the check registers for the school district. The board did not recommend this one, 9-0, and we're not going to be talking about this. If folks want to learn more about it, contact, I guess, the petitioner.
Or watch the deliberative session. There was discussion about it, but I think in general, Scott, citizens petition warrant articles, we tend to not comment. So that's what the voters will see when they go to the polls on the second Tuesday of March. So Scott, if people are interested in getting a little more into the details, where can they find the information? On the QR code?
Yeah, so
on
just
the website?
You can take a picture of the QR code or scan it, and then you'll be linked to our website. On the website, you'll see all of the documents related to the deliberative session, which includes copies of all the budgets. It will also include a copy of our voters guide. So people will be able, you'll get that mailed to you, but if for some reason you don't, there'll be a copy of that. And that voters guide not only includes the school district, but also all of the town articles, as well. So again, for more information, this was just a very high level overview, but please check out the school district website as well as the town's voter guide. And again, this QR code that you have on the screen right now, you can look for more information.
Yeah, and thank you to interested voters who are watching this to learn more about the budget.
All right, so with that, we encourage you to go out to vote on March 11th. And if you have any questions, again, please visit the school district website. Thank you.